If you ever needed an example of the ways in which the internet, but more specifically short form content, is destroying people's ability to think critically and listen critically, as well as have nuanced conversations, which is why having any dialogue on the internet has become a hellscape. Look no further than Ayesha Curry's most recent appearance on the Call Her Daddy podcast. Here's the snippet people are responding to that has caused so much backlash and vitriol against Ayesha Curry from that podcast. Here is the snippet of what she said.
Okay, 4 kids. Did you always knew you wanted a big family?
No. So I didn't want kids. I didn't want to get married. I thought I was going to be career girl and that's it. And I had my eyes set on my goals. And I was never the little girl that like dreamt about the wedding dress and all of that. And then it happened so early in my life. So it's like, it's one of those things like you don't know what you actually don't know what you want.
So that's what Ayesha Curry said. Here is what people heard. I hate Steph Curry. I hate being a wife. I hate being a mom. I thought I was better than my husband. I'm above having children. I hate my life. I am so ungrateful. What the actual F is going on? The way people have been responding has been a perfect example of something that I talk about a lot. And now I'm seeing more conversations other people are having. That the internet short form content is eroding people's brains and destroying people's ability to critically think and listen, which is why it is so challenging at worst and just downright annoying at best to have any type of nuanced conversation online. So we're going to talk about it in this video while I do some skincare. Let's get into it. Aloha, beautiful humans. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, welcome back if we've been locked in. My name is Sasha, and today we're coming at you with just a different vibe, a different energy. I need to do my skincare anyways, and this is something that I would ordinarily, if I'm talking about it on TikTok, I would probably be doing skincare anyway. As we go through the video, I'm going to list off everything I'm using, so I'm starting off with the Dr. Dennis Gross, the Spectralite LED mask. You are supposed to use this mask after you've washed your face on dry skin. I tend to double cleanse. So how I wash my face, I actually double cleanse. Every time I'm washing my face, I'm double cleansing, and I think that has what's really helped with my skincare. So this is going to be a skincare video and a video about Ayesha Curry. So I'm going to go through every step of my skincare process. So first we're using the mask. However, I've already washed my face. I double cleanse every single time I wash my skin. So my first double cleanser that I will go in with, it also doubles as a makeup remover. It is the Biolique Recherche. It is the Late VIP 02. I use that for a minute. This is very important when you're washing your face, when you're double cleansing. You want to do everything for a minute. So I do that for a minute, and then I use Youth to the People Superfood Cleanser, and I wash my face for a minute, dry it down with some face towels, and then I use this mask. So this is the red light setting. The red light setting is for anti-aging. The blue light setting is for acne fighting. Acne used to be when I got off of hormonal birth control, my skin erupted. I got acne for the first time in my life, hormonal acne. It was terrible. So on my journey to treat my acne, I don't really have active acne right now, but that is because I've stepped up my skincare. I'm using only medical grade skincare. And I'm also I'm getting like monthly facials, and I'm also incorporating red light therapy and blue light therapy into my skincare routine. So anyways, like I said, the red light therapy, that is for anti-aging. The blue light therapy, which is what I will do next, is for acne fighting. And then this mask has both a red and blue light setting. And you want to keep each setting on for 3 minutes. It's automatic, so it'll click off in 3 minutes. Okay, let's get into the video. So just like I said in the intro, watching how people have responded to what Ayesha Curry said, first and foremost, there is nothing wrong with what she said. She is sharing her experience. And I think that's something a lot of people struggle with, because not only have people developed parasocial relationships with their favorite, people also have this very annoying inability to listen to someone speak and not get triggered or understand that somebody is speaking exclusively about their experience. And that stems from a lot of things, but I think mainly a lot of people lack a certain level of emotional intelligence necessary to have certain conversations, but also a lot of people are not grounded and rooted in who they are as individuals. When you are someone who is confident about the choices you are making and you're not constantly seeking validation from other people or looking to have your decisions validated, the decisions that other people make in their own personal lives and how they live their lives, it's not going to affect you one way or the other. And I think a lot of people are constantly looking towards others to validate their life, to validate their choices. And when you are not comfortable and secure in the choices you have made, someone else making a different choice, it triggers a lot of people. They look at it as, oh, this person thinks they're better than me because they're doing something different than me. And something different doesn't necessarily mean any better or any worse. It's just different. So anyways, how people have been responding to Ayesha Curry has been what she said on that podcast. It is something many women can relate to, because despite all the backlash that I have seen and the backlash that I have been getting in the comments that I made about this video on TikTok, and this is part of the reason why I wanted to talk about it on YouTube, which is a platform that encourages and rewards long form content, because you are able to have a level of a nuanced conversation that you are not able to have on TikTok because people's attention spans have just been cooked. Like short form content, it is destroying people's attention spans and people's ability to think. Just like I said in the intro, I genuinely feel that short form content is destroying people's ability to think. It is destroying people's ability to listen critically. People hear what they want to hear. And I also think it is emotionally hijacking people and destroying people's ability to display any modicum of emotional intelligence. So that was a blue light that just went off. The red light went off. The blue light just went off. So I'm going to do one more round of the red light and the blue light. But yeah, what Ayesha Curry said was very benign. It's something that a lot of women have been able to relate to, can have probably felt for themselves. But I think there are several reasons why it is being received so poorly. First and foremost, Ayesha Curry is just one of those people that really triggers a lot of people. That people as a society, as a collective, have decided anything that comes out of her mouth, they're automatically going to dislike it. And there are several people who people respond to that way. Tyla is one of those people. Chloe Bailey is one of those people. Gabrielle Union is one of those people. Anything and everything they say is automatically met with annoyance, and people are just so hyper negative towards them. Anything they say, it's going to be received negatively. And there are white women who people receive this way. For example, Katherine Heigl, I think people are very irritated by her. Anne Hathaway, especially, people are deeply irritated by her. I understand that this is just women, right? It's misogyny on its face. But everything that affects women as a whole, because of misogynoir, that is racism and sexism, anything that is happening to women or that women are on the receiving end of backlash, it's going to be worse for Black women. And that's exactly what's happening with Ayesha Curry, because there's a very specific demographic of people that are responding very negatively and harshly towards her, which I will get into later in the video. But anyway, what makes the backlash to what Ayesha Curry said so disappointing is, just like I said, so many women can relate to what she is saying, especially women who are career driven or women as they get older. People heard what they wanted to hear. People projected onto Ayesha their own thoughts and feelings about what it is to be a wife, what it should mean to be a wife, and what it should mean to be a mother. Even though I do not have children, as someone who is nearing my 40s, as someone who is very ambitious in different ways, even though I am child-free, to a certain extent, I could relate to what Ayesha was saying. And I think that many women, especially as you are nearing your 40s and you start to look at your life and recognize, oh, okay, we're done. All right, now I'm going to go in with my Biolique Recherche. This is the Lotion P50. This is really good for exfoliating, brightening, and if you have hyperpigmentation, this is also really good for hyperpigmentation. But anyways, like I said, a lot of women, when you turn 40, you start to look at life in your rear view and realize there are some things that you maybe could have done differently, or the way you received your life started to change. And Ayesha Curry, she is consistently hyping up Steph. She never insulted him. She never once insulted him, never said she hated being a wife, never said any of that. All of this hyperbole people are responding to. What Ayesha Curry is experiencing, matter of fact, has nothing to do with Steph and everything to do with her. But because people cannot separate Ayesha Curry as the individual from Ayesha Curry as Steph Curry's wife, people are not listening to what she said. What she said had nothing to do with Steph and everything to do with how she felt her life should have turned out or what she wanted from life at the get-go, because she got married at a very young age. Once your prefrontal cortex develops, you start to view life a lot differently. And who we are at 29, at 26 is not who we are, hopefully, at 21. And it's definitely not going to be who we are when we're in our 30s and when we're entering our 40s. Ayesha Curry is 36 years old. It makes 110% sense. She is starting to look back on her life and reflect on certain decisions she made, decisions she didn't make. And she never once said, oh, I regretted this or I regret that. It's just that, hey, when I was younger, I didn't see myself getting married. I didn't really see myself wanting to have kids. I was a career woman. I was an ambitious woman. I thought I was going to be an actor. I thought this was going to happen. I think that was going to happen. And I think we all can relate to that. If you are someone who is not living a life that you initially thought you were going to be living, if you're one of the people whose life has turned out exactly how you thought, congratulations, you are a rare unicorn. For the most part, though, a lot of people walk through initially wanting to do something and then things change, and that's okay. That is totally normal. Never once did she say, I regret being a wife. Never once did she say, I regret being a mom. She never said that, but because people do not listen and people project what they think they heard onto what people said, that is why we are here now. And it's really unfortunate because, like I said, a lot of women can relate to Ayesha Curry. And it is very refreshing to hear women who are on these elevated pedestals and positions in society, they are able to relate to the average woman. And so it goes to show that money is not necessarily going to change things. Status is not going to necessarily change things. Who you marry is not going to necessarily change things. If you're not fulfilled in your own life, that is something that we all have to find. We all have to go out and find our own passions, our ambitions, what's going to make us feel whole in life, which is what's going to make us feel complete in life. And that could change at any single moment. And when you are so young and getting married, like she got married young, she had children very young, like your life is changing so quickly. And that's what she said. She was like, we got married and then I was pregnant and then all of these things are happening. Now, granted, yes, she is an adult. Yes, she is making adult decisions to get married, to become a mom. Nobody forced her to do that. We know birth control exists and she could have said no to Steph when he proposed to her. Okay, we all know that. Yes, 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 yada, yada, yada. We know. However, you can make those decisions and still be kind of blindsided by the speed at which things are happening and maybe not be ready for those things as they're happening. You can want this new stage in life, but still be surprised when it happens if you're not like fully prepared for it. And even if you are fully prepared for it, it's a new stage. You've never been there before. You don't know how you're going to receive things. I think a lot of people operate from this place of shoulda, coulda, woulda, but you don't know how you're going to respond to anything until and unless you are in that position. Now we are going in with some essence. I've let my toner dry down, and so I want to go in with some essence. This I don't put on a cotton pad. I just put it straight on my face. But anyways, like I said, Ayesha Curry is a very career-driven and ambitious woman, and I think that's important to understanding how and why she feels the way she does. Now, this is something that I found out about her during their interview. I didn't know this about her, that she had been acting since she was 3 years old. I knew that she was an actress, but I didn't know that she has been acting from a very young age. And so that is what she set out to do. And yes, she went out to LA. I guess things didn't work out for her with acting. She came back home. That's when she met Steph, well, reconnected with Steph. One thing leads to another. Now they're married and they have a kid. However, her life is not remarkably different from a lot of women's lives. They meet this guy, it's great, and then they get married, and like it's not typically happening anymore because more women are waiting longer to get married and have kids. Like this is the first time in history that more women in their 40s are having children than women in their teenage years, 18 and 19-year-olds, which is great. I honestly think that's what should be happening because I think it's crazy how we are conditioned to have children so young. And I think in part that conditioning comes from knowing that when your prefrontal cortex develops and you're able to make certain decisions, you will be like, wait, hold on a second. You will probably be more selective with who you date, be more or less willing to have as many children. And so that is in part why I believe so many women are encouraged at a very young age. We've accepted this very sexist mentality that women depreciate the older we get. And so you want to get all of the goods you can get out of a woman when she is younger. But it is also a manipulation tactic because a younger woman is easier to manipulate and is easier to control. And then when you give her or you have all of these children with her from a very young age, now kids become her incentive to stay, even if she's unhappy when her prefrontal cortex develops and she looks back and she's I am now in a bad situation. I have all of these kids. I didn't finish my education. I'm dependent on this man who may or may not be some level of abusive, if not physically, mentally, emotionally. Then he's just incompetent and he's basically a man child. So now he's added to my number of children already. Like, it is absolutely a tactic to ensnare women into this life of, I won't say unhappiness, because not every woman who has children young and marries young is unhappy. However, a very common thread that I have found with women who are having these conversations and giving other women, especially younger women, advice to wait and not rush life, I tend to find that they are women who did that exact same thing. They're women who got married when they were really young and or they got married really young as well. All right, so this is my vitamin C serum. This is SkinCeuticals Florentin CF. It has actually, no, my vitamin C, I'm going to wear that at night actually. But this is an antioxidant treatment. It combines 2% Florentin, 10% L-ascorbic acid, and zero point 0.5 ferulic acid. I really like this. And P.S. if you're going out in the daytime using all of this, you should be wearing a sunscreen. I'm not always the best with sunscreen. And you should also be wearing sunscreen year round. I think people have this perception, especially sometimes us as Black people or people with melanin in our skin. We think that we only have to be wearing like sunscreen during the summertime, but no. Or some people, some of us don't even be using sunscreen at all. Like, I don't think I've ever seen my mom use sunscreen, and she grew up in Nigeria, so she's like, I'm good. But yeah, like, we should be using sunscreen. But anyways, yeah, I'm going to put this on, and then I'm going to put on my Biologique Recherche. This is the Complex Irribiol, and it is a rebalancing and purifying serum for your face. This helped me get rid of a lot of the texture I was seeing on my skin. So if you're trying to get rid of hyperpigmentation and also texture, this is really good. I would honestly recommend the Biologique Recherche. I would recommend their line. It's like a medical grade skincare, so it is a little bit pricier. However, I personally feel it's definitely worth it. And I'm not a person, I don't really buy a lot of like clothes and bags and shoes. Like, I mean, I do like a bag. I love me a bag. I don't really buy a lot of those things. My thing is skincare. So that's the thing that I always invest in. But anyways, I digress. Let me get back. Anyways, Ayesha Curry has always been like very career driven, and she's an entrepreneur in her own right. She's tried different things, and she has not attained the level of success which she wanted, and that's okay. Again, this is a feeling that we need to normalize. We need to normalize being disappointed in how things may or may not have turned out. But I also think that we need to normalize women having identities outside of exclusively being wife and mother, because Michelle Obama talked about this exact same thing. However, people did not respond as negatively to her. And so she came out and said she basically hated Barack or did not like that man for about 10 years. And people laughed and kikied and they were like, oh, that's so funny. And then a lot of women were like, oh, Michelle, we could totally relate. But now Ayesha Curry says doesn't even talk about the fact that she hates Steph or hated Steph at any moment regularly and frequently. She's always hyping him up and encouraging him and supporting him and talking about how great of a man she is. So I'm just unsure how people got to this place. The only way it makes sense in my brain that people got to all of these extreme thoughts, feelings, and opinions about what Ayesha Curry said in that podcast is either they did not listen to it to themselves, they listened to the clips that people took on the internet and then ran with it and just listened to their favorite content creator or influencer on TikTok and what they said and their opinion and then internalized that. Because what is very clear to me, and that's something that happens a lot, like being on the internet, especially on TikTok and responding to anything, it becomes a game of telephone. And this is why I just have a rule for myself that I will never respond to anything anyone has said or done if I do not go and view it by myself. And I think that if more people took that approach to just that level, that small, the smallest amount of due diligence to go and listen to things themselves, I do not think we would see a lot of the backlash and drama and misunderstandings that happen on TikTok specifically, because TikTok is a platform that routinely and frequently rewards drama, negativity, chaos, and mess. Then combine that with the fact that people just do not like Ayesha Curry. People find her very annoying, which is kind of funny because 10 years ago, it was all get you an Ayesha Curry and men were singing her praises. I even think Drake put her in a song talking about I need an Ayesha Curry in my life. So it was fine when she wasn't talking and she just accepted her wife and mother and she was silent and being put on a pedestal. But now she is grown. She's 36 years old. She's sharing her thoughts, feelings, and opinions about life and being an ambitious woman and wanting to be more than Steph Curry's wife and the mother of Steph Curry's children. And all of a sudden, that creates backlash in people. That's suspicious. That's weird. But that leads me to another reason why I think people are responding so negatively, which is parasocial relationships. People have put Steph Curry on a pedestal in their mind. We don't know these people. We don't know what's happening in their marriage. We do not know the conversations that they are having. Steph Curry has not come out and said that he feels disrespected by anything Ayesha said. So people are creating all of this fan fiction and all of these narratives, and it's because they like Steph Curry. You know, I like Steph Curry. He seems like a very nice person. The image that he puts out on the internet and on social media in general, he just seems like a really nice person. Okay, he seems like somebody that I would enjoy spending time with, and he just seems like a great father, because we don't know him as a husband, but that's the thing. Ayesha Curry knows him as a husband. Ayesha Curry knows him as a father. We don't know this man, right? So we are relying on our public image of him, and people's public image of him is shaping their perspective of what she said, not realizing or not even caring about the fact that, again, Ayesha Curry said nothing about Steph. And it had nothing to do, nothing of what she said had anything to do with Steph and everything to do with how she was feeling, which has nothing to do with her husband, who, again, the husband that she praised in the interview. You're like, Sasha, more skincare? Yes, more skincare. Just like 2 more things. I need to put on my moisturizer. I need to put on my eye serum. So the eye serum, I use the Kiehl's Super Multi-Corrective Eye Zone Treatment. A little bit goes a long way. And what I like about this eye serum is that you can put it all over your orbital bone. You just don't need to put it like under, which is really nice because now that I'm officially in my late 30s, I'm like focusing more on anti-aging, and I want to like focus on the entire area of my eye, not just like under my eye. So anyways, yeah, people have developed this parasocial relationship with Steph Curry because of the image that he puts out there. And so they're getting offended on his behalf, despite the fact that he himself has not come out to say anything about what his wife's. She has in the past actually made comments about her marriage. And again, because this is not the first time she's talked about this or even said something to this degree. I do think that because she went on the Call Her Daddy podcast, that is a podcast that is geared towards, you know, Gen Z and younger millennials. I'm actually really surprised when I think about the demographic that is responding so negatively and so harshly to what she's saying. That actually reinforces my perspective and opinion that they did not listen to the podcast in whole, because the Call Her Daddy podcast, men, but more specifically Black men, and we'll get into that later in the video, because I do think that from what I saw, and again, I'm putting this as a caveat to what I saw, because I am mostly on Black TikTok. Most of the people I'm following and engaging with on TikTok are Black TikTok. Most of the people who are engaging with my content and are following me, I think my following is pretty diverse, but I find that the people who mostly engage with my content are Black people, and that's the algorithm, that's what is feeding me. And so because the Call Her Daddy podcast is not geared, the demographic of that is not Black men. The target demographic is not Black men. And so it was Black men mostly who are responding very negatively to what Ayesha Curry said, or what they heard, not what Ayesha Curry said, what those men heard. That also lets me know that they didn't watch the podcast in its entirety, because they're not even the target demographic. So anyways, backtracking, a lot of people, because of their own parasocial relationships with Steph Curry and because of the branding, because of the image that he put out, They want to come to his defense. They want to attack. They want to defend their favorite basketball player from his wife. I can't. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Like the responses to this are so stupid. And it's so stupid because it is so clear to me that a lot of people are responding from a place of they're triggered. They're very triggered. They're projecting their own anxieties based on what they heard and then projecting their own anxieties about what it means for them to be a man in the dating market at the moment and what that means for their dating prospect. How men responded really goes to show that there is a disconnect between men and women in our society as it pertains to dating, as it pertains to expectations, and as it pertains to how men and women are relating to one another. But more specifically, the expectations that come with a relationship. And I think those expectations are once again being fueled by social media content, but more specific, short form content giving dating advice, but that dating advice is stripped of its context and its nuance and sounds good on TikTok. It sounds good for social media and these little soundbite nuggets of advice that go viral and people save and repost and do all the things. But can it be applied in real life and in real relationships? Not exactly. And this is what happens when you listen to dating advice and take it, dating advice that is stripped of its context, stripped from its nuance, and apply it blanketly to every single person you are dating or interacting with, rather than getting to know that person and actually having conversation. And that disconnect in dating, I mostly see it within the Black community, on Black TikTok, because again, that is the algorithm, that is what I'm being fed. And that disconnect between men and women, but specifically Black women and Black men, as it pertains to dating, was highlighted to a T, to perfectly, with the backlash that Ayesha Curry received based on what men heard, not what Ayesha Curry said. All right, we're finally ending this and putting on moisturizer. This is the Valmont Prime 20. This is such a good moisturizing cream, and a little bit goes a long way. Like, I don't really put too much on. You see how tiny this is? I've been using it for about a month and a half now. So really a little bit goes a long way. The word that I routinely saw men using when criticizing Ayesha Curry for what she said was that she was, quote, ungrateful. And that's really important for several reasons. There is this perception, and I don't even think it's a perception. I think the reality is that Ayesha Curry does live a very privileged life in comparison to the vast majority of Americans. She's not struggling to pay her bills. She's not worried about keeping a roof over her head. She's not worried about providing for her children. Like, they're good. Ayesha's good. Her children are good. She lives a very privileged life in comparison to a lot of Americans. And that privileged life is not necessarily as a result of her own career, but her husband's. Because while Ayesha Curry is, yes, an entrepreneur and is making her own money, the position that she occupies in life, this life of privilege that is afforded to her children and her by an extent, it is as a result of Steph and his career. So Steph, in their marriage, is the main provider. He has a very, great career. He's a multimillionaire. And Ayesha, there's this perception that because he is providing this life of ease for her, this life of luxury, she should be grateful. She should want for nothing. And there's that should, because people are projecting the average American watching this and giving Ayesha Curry and criticizing her and giving her all of this energy and static. The average person is broke. And so they're looking at this woman who occupies a life of luxury and they're thinking, if I was in that position, I would never complain about it. But you're not in that position. She is. And she's allowed to feel however way she wants about where she thought she was going to be and how she thought her life was going to turn out. And how Ayesha Curry feels about Ayesha Curry's life has nothing to do with Steph, and it doesn't have anything to do with you, the viewer, and whoever was mad about what she says, whether they know it or not. A lot of people exist in scarcity and poverty mindset and mentality that they don't realize that people who do have money do have problems. They do struggle. They do have existential and internal crises and identity crises that they have to figure out themselves. Money does not absolve you from mental illness. It doesn't absolve you from struggle. It may absolve you or shield you from some types of struggle, but not all types of struggles. And we are all individuals. We all have our own drive and our ambitions and want things out of life. And just because you have had to work hard all your life, and if somebody handed you $1 million or you were able to marry into this life of luxury, you may think you would operate one way, but you don't know because that's not your life. And I hope that everybody is someday in a place where they're able to move into luxury and not be broke. But that's not the reality for a lot of people. And so, because it's not the reality for a lot of people, and people are watching other people live these luxurious lives and think that they would be so grateful for it, that another person, that somebody living the life that they want to live should be grateful. And especially when it comes to men, they think that Ayesha Curry should be grateful for the life Steph is providing for her because she doesn't work. What's so frustrating about this mentality that she is ungrateful, that only tracks if you as a man feel the only contribution you should be bringing to your relationship, or the only thing women should care about, is money. And that says more about you as a, and I think that's one of the reasons why so many men who have this mentality, especially this patriarchal mentality or this traditional mentality, why they are struggling in the dating climate right now. Because for so long, men have been socialized to think that their only role in a relationship or in a marriage is the resources you bring to the table. So men didn't have to worry about developing a personality or being somebody who was like. But not only is the gender pay gap closing, women are in the workforce. There have been so many conversations and articles that I've been seeing lately about how men are falling behind. And is it that men are falling behind, or is it that women are succeeding and closing the gap despite all of the barriers that have been put up that have limited women's success and hindered their success for so long? Women are going harder. So is it men are falling behind, or women are no longer being held back by patriarchy to a certain extent as it pertains to career and schooling? And that's another conversation for another day. I may do another video. But anyways, we are now in a place where not only is the gender pay gap closed, also women are excelling and thriving in their career. So the resources a man is bringing to the table as far as money, that's not the only thing women are looking for in a relationship, because they have their own money. And not only do they have their own money, we are living in a society where it's very challenging and difficult for the average American household to subsist on one income anyway. So if you are dating a woman and you are likely going to marry her, she's going to be working anyway. So now both of y'all are going to be bringing resources into the household. So your resources don't matter because she needs to work anyway. So now she is not only looking to you as someone who is going to be a financial equal to her, she is also looking for a man who is pleasant, who has a personality, who is funny, whatever she wants, because women are allowed to have their own standards. And I think that's what is triggering a lot of men. Now women have standards. Well, women have always had standards, but now women can be selective. They can be picky in the ways men used to be picky. And that pickiness, having standards, was only limited to a man. But now that women can select and have standards and don't need men, that is creating a lot of anxiety. And so when men see a Steph Curry, a nice guy who has all these riches, who is famous, who is able to provide for a woman, they think he's the man. He's who I want to be. I would want to be with him, because I think a lot of men, if they were being completely honest, they would immediately supplant Ayesha Curry and be like, yes, Steph, take me. I want to be your wife. Like, I honestly feel like that's what would happen. But anyways, I think a lot of men are really, it's really highlighting a lot of men's own anxieties about what it now means for them in the dating market. And if Ayesha Curry is complaining about her complaining, and not because that's what they heard, not what Ayesha was doing, but if Ayesha Curry is complaining about Steph Curry, this handsome man who is able to provide financially, and she don't gotta work, she don't gotta cook, she don't gotta clean, she can get all these nannies, yada, yada, yada. If she's complaining about all of this, and he's the man, he's that dude, like Steph Curry is the GOAT, he is that guy, he is him. If she's complaining about that, what does that mean for me? A lot of men are thinking, what does that mean for me as the average man who may not have all these resources, who may not be tall, who may not be handsome? You know, that's what I think is triggering a lot of men's anxiety. And they're not being honest about that because I don't even think they know it, right? Because a lot of people are just lack a certain level of self-awareness and emotional intelligence. So they're having these strong reactions, but they don't know where it's coming because they're not interrogating these emotions. They're not interrogating these thoughts. They're not taking the moment to sit with them. What they're doing is they're going out into the internet and into these echo chambers where they see their thoughts, feelings, and opinions being reinforced by other men who lack emotional intelligence, self-regulation, and critical thinking, as well as critical listening skills. They are finding these echo chambers and then not only staying in those echo chambers, but then they'll come to the posts of people like me, because I talked about this on TikTok. They'll find the posts of women who are talking about it and spew all of their vitriol and negativity out into your comment section. And it's just like, who hurt you? Not me, not Ayesha. Go to therapy. I actually responded to a comment that I saw because somebody was like, I think a lot of people are responding so negatively because the average American is struggling to pay their bills. And I'm like, what does the average American struggling to pay their bills have anything to do with Ayesha Curry and her feelings about where she thought she was going to be in life and not wanting in the past to be a mother, not thinking she would have been a mother? What does that have anything to do with anything? I'd be so confused. It's very clear to me that a lot of men, again, are very triggered by what she said because they're thinking that if she feels this way as a woman, then other women are going to feel this way, especially because I'm not Steph Curry and I can't provide all of these things that Steph Curry provides. But people need to stop watching people live their lives and hearing what people are saying about their own lives and using influencers and content creators and celebrities as examples. They can be the start of a conversation, but how they feel should not be how you are moving through the world. And what is happening is a lot of people are listening to these things and internalizing them, then projecting them out onto everyone and allowing it to influence and impact how they date people instead of just having conversations with the people that they date. Ayesha Curry is one woman. Steph Curry is one man. They are married to one another, and we don't know what is going on in their household. We don't know what's going on in their marriage. Steph hasn't come out to say anything negative about or anything in response, negative or positive, to what Ayesha said. So if Steph isn't bothered, why are you bothered? More specifically, why a lot of men do this thing where they will not all men and they don't want to be viewed as responsible for all men's reactions, right? So if a man says something negative, and women are like, well, why do men? They will be quick to say, not all men are like this. I'm not like this, da 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 da. So why do some men turn around and then do the same thing with women? Because a lot of men, in my comment sections, a lot of them were like, women this, women that. And I'm like, first of all, who are you talking to? I am not your wife, okay? You don't got to worry about me. What I'm saying, what I feel, what Ayesha's saying, how she feels, it ain't got nothing to do with you. Talk to the women in your life. Have conversations with them, because that is what is missing. People are not having the conversations with the people they should be having in their life. People are using influencers, content creators, celebrities as litmus tests, as examples for how they should be living their lives. And while they can be inspirational or can encourage you to work harder because you want that, these people should not be a litmus test for what is going on in your own personal life. This is the downside of parasocial relationships. I talked about this in the video that I just did about how sprinkle and soft life and hypergamy content. P.S. I apparently was saying that word wrong the entire video. I was saying it hypergamy. I don't even know. But anyways, in the video that I did recently about hypergamy, I was talking about the fact that a lot of this content is radicalizing women, especially young Black women, or has the possibility to radicalize young Black women into the alt-light pipeline. And the thing is, it's not just Black women and women in general who are taking in exclusively this content and who are watching it. Men are seeing it too, and it could possibly be informing and instilling some type of anxiety and fear and triggering men how they are feeling. And so they are also watching this content and having this perspective that this is what all women want, instead of, again, talking to the women in their lives and having conversations with them. And when you have these conversations with women, you will find that every woman doesn't want the same thing. Not every woman is looking to date hypergamously. Not every woman is looking to go 50-50 with a man. Some women will settle for 70-30. Some women want an equal partner. Some women will settle for 50-50. Some women won't. But have the conversations with these women. Have honest, vulnerable conversations instead of projecting content that you are seeing online. This goes back to the whole coffee date thing that was happening, and people were like, oh, if a woman doesn't want to go on a coffee date, she's just a gold digger and blah, 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 blah. Stop labeling people with a broad brush. Talk to the people in your lives and have vulnerable conversations, because I think that's what honestly is. It requires a level of vulnerability and discernment that you can only get by talking to people, instead of trying to get one over on people and play these stupid games. Like there are all these content creators, or not all of them, but some of these male dating coach will be like, oh, take her swimming to see what she looks like without makeup, or ask her if she wants to go on a coffee date, and if she says no, she's a gold digger. Planting all of these little Easter eggs, or just putting women through all of these tests to see and test them. And it's just like, is this an op, or is this somebody you want to date? Because why are you approaching this dating situation, going into it so negatively, instead of just asking her questions, hey, or being vulnerable? But that level of vulnerability would require a level of emotional intelligence that I don't think some people have and aren't willing to develop, which is also why they are struggling. Because do you really see, like, some men will be like, oh, I'm a good guy. Women don't want good guys. I'm this, that, and the third. And then when you listen to them talk long enough, they talk themselves into a hole, and you realize they're cosplaying a good guy, but they are not doing it. But they are not actually that way, because their intention is to not be a good person. It is to get women. I very rarely find men who are struggling with dating, who are single, who have worked on their emotional intelligence, who are having honest conversations with women. Like one of my friends, I almost said his name. One of my friends, he is single, but he also recognizes he's extremely picky, which is unfortunate because he has a level of emotional intelligence. He's funny. He's really pleasant to be around. I genuinely enjoy him. And every time we hang out, I'm like, I cannot wait to go to your wedding. I want to see you with the woman. I want to see you with the wife. And I don't know. I hope it happens for him, because I know he's dating and I know it's what he wants, but he's also very picky. But he's allowed to be. He is allowed to be. But he's not putting women through all of these stupid litmus tests and forcing them to jump through hoops. He's very honest. He's very honest, maybe to a fault, but it is what it is. But that's what I find so refreshing about him. He's having these honest conversations, and then women decide, hey, this is not going to work for me. And that's okay. That's what dating is. It's what dating is. And that's another thing that I find so frustrating about these conversations. Men say, instead of men to just, or some men, not all, I think it's very clear that I'm talking about some men, not all. I don't think I always have to say that, but I do have to say it because, again, emotional intelligence, context, nuance, people like to argue. People are drunk on rage every time they log onto the internet. So it is what it is. But there will be some women or some men. You date a woman, you guys are incompatible, you go your separate ways. That's how it's supposed to work. But because she is really beautiful, or she has some attribute these men like and want to be with, they will, instead of them to just either accept that woman she is and move on, some people will try to force this woman to change and shoehorn this woman into being what they want her to be. And it's just like, it's not going to work out. Okay? It's not going to work out. Just move on. Stop trying to change people. Stop trying to shoehorn and force people into the person you want them to be and getting mad when they're not that. I've never understood that. For example, a man sees a woman on social media. He's scrolling. He comes across her profile. She got boobies out. She got booty out. It's a TNA show. Okay? She's a baddie. She's a baddie. This man may or may not have already been with a baddie before, but it comes with a baddie. Now, I ain't never been with a baddie. Like, he may or may not have been with a baddie before, but he meets a woman one way, and then he starts dating her. And then out of nowhere, he's like, oh, I want you to cover up. I want you to take down your bikini photos. I want you to, like that stupidness that, please don't make me defend the Kardashians. I will never defend the Kardashian. But it never made sense to me that Kanye West met Kim Kardashian, as you can log online and see All. You could see it all, okay? He knew that before he started dating with her, but he dated her anyway, married her, had children with her, and now all of a sudden he wants her to cover up. Like, get out of here. Get out of here. You met her a certain way. Why would you want her to change? Like, I remember in premarital counseling, before Shinobe and I got married, we went through premarital counseling, and something that the counselor said was, if you two are not able to accept each other the way you are today, with no inclination, thoughts, feelings, opinions, that this person will change, this is going to be the person you marry today, is going to be the person you are going to marry for the rest of your life. If you cannot accept that person the way they are today, you two should not get married. And Stubby and I looked at each other and we were like, yeah, yeah. I've changed in some ways. He's changed in some ways. But we both know who we were when we first met each other. And there were some difficult conversations that we had to have. But I was not going to change him in a lot of ways, and he was not going to change me in a lot of ways. And 9 years later, well, I mean, we've been married for 9 years. We've been together for 14 years. Here we are. I don't understand. I really genuinely feel that the reason some people are struggling to date, especially men, is they come into a relationship or a situationship or whatever. They come to it with this expectation of what they want the relationship should be. And you are allowed to have your expectations. You are allowed to have your boundaries. You are allowed to have your standards. But so is that woman. She is allowed to have her boundaries, expectations, and what she wants. And if it doesn't gel with you and what you want out of life, instead of trying to shoehorn her into what you want her to be and who you want her to be, leave her alone. Leave her alone. And it doesn't have to be something personal. It doesn't have to be negative. It doesn't have to be she's the worst person ever. It's just that she was incompatible with you. Maturity. A concept. Along with Ayesha Curry being ungrateful, it's just like these women nowadays. And it's just like, at a certain point, personal responsibility has to become a factor in the equation. Who are you dating? How are you dating? And why do you keep on choosing these women who you are so incompatible with or are having such bad experiences with? Because at a certain point, it has to be you. And I think that that is something else that is missing. A lot of people are just not going to do the work to self-reflect and to interrogate why they've reacted so strongly to what Ayesha Curry said. However, she didn't say anything wrong. This is why it is so important for people. If something, I say this all the time, I know I sound like a broken record at this point. If something makes you feel very strongly or makes you have a visceral negative reaction, sit with that, interrogate that thought, and ask yourself, where is this coming from? And if more people were honest, I think, especially men, I think that I think they would realize that they are struggling to think about how they can show up in a changing dating economy and how the expectations women have, how it is maybe challenging for them to date. I think it's really just that simple. What I saw in a lot of the comments and what I saw in a lot of the responses was obviously misogynoir, because Black women aren't allowed to have standards. Black women are supposed to just take whatever breadcrumbs a man is willing to throw at them, especially a rich man. And so a lot of men think that, oh, if I had money, they find themselves counting other men's pockets, which is weird. But they think if a man has, that's all a man should have to bring to the relationship is money. And again, that's a sign that this person struggles with emotional intelligence. But that's another conversation for another day. Or maybe that is the conversation for today, and we've already had the conversation, so I don't need to be beating a dead. If you were triggered by that conversation because you recognize or you feel that if Steph Curry, because this is what you heard, because you heard Steph Curry is this rich man who couldn't make his wife happy, even though that's not what Ayesha Curry said, and that was not the energy of the podcast. And this is just another caveat. I think also what created some of this backlash was the Call Her Daddy podcast itself, that platform. Because Alex Cooper, it took Call Her Daddy a while to grow on me because of Alex Cooper's interview style. I think she creates this list of questions that she has in her mind, and she tries to make it through that list of questions. And I've seen her do this several times where I wish she would have paused to interrogate something somebody said or flesh it out a little bit more. Because I feel like if Ayesha Curry would have gone on the Michelle Obama podcast, I think that the conversation would have been much better. I think it would have been a much more fleshed out, nuanced conversation. Not only did she experience those feelings for herself, but also I find her to be a very good conversationalist and interviewer. And I think she would have pulled on that thread a little bit more, even though Ayesha Curry, in my personal opinion, was very clear. I think what Michelle Obama would have done was been like, okay, well, how do you feel about it now? You had these feelings over the past few years, when you were looking initially at yourself at 19 years old, you don't want to become a wife, you don't want to become a mother. That was not how you felt at the time. But how has your feelings changed over time as you've been through this as a mother of 4 children? I think that Michelle Obama would have asked like a better question, would have asked a better line of questions that Alex Cooper doesn't really do on the Call Her Daddy platform. I also think that it would have been received a little bit differently within the Black demographic, and there wouldn't have been, I think there would have been a more nuanced conversation that resulted, because Michelle Obama, again, it's a different demographic. It's a bit of an older demographic. So older women would have likely been responding to that, watching the podcast, and then older women would have seen it. Older women who may have been wives, who may have been moms, who may have had to give up their careers for motherhood, whose careers may not have panned out the way they wanted to, because they put their career on the back shelf or the back burner to be a wife and to be a mom. Like, I just think that the platform, I don't have anything wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with the Call Her Daddy podcast. I really enjoy it. I like Alex Cooper. I think it's amazing what she has built for herself and created for herself. It's been really great to see her growth and elevation, have been great to see. I just think that the line of questioning could have been a little bit better, and I don't think it would have been received as negatively if Ayesha would have went on a different podcast. However, there are people who are committed to misunderstanding her and disliking her, and there is this perception that Black women should just be grateful for whatever a man is willing to throw at them. Ayesha Curry represents this eye candy, the image of what is put on a pedestal as the peak of beauty within the Black community. She's light skinned, she has green eyes, she has she's pretty. I think Ayesha Curry is beautiful. She's a very pretty woman. And so this very pretty, privileged woman is sitting here saying, yeah, I don't want any of that. I wanted a career. Basically, in a lot of Black men's mind, basically putting down Steph, putting him down, and disrespecting him as a provider. And it's just like, there is this idea of like, oh, I don't know if I want to say this, because I don't know if I want to open up myself to certain things on. Yeah, I think I'll keep that. To wrap all of this up, there is nothing wrong with what Ayesha Curry said. And even though she was on the receiving end of so much backlash, and I do think that maybe the Call Her Daddy podcast was not the best place to have this conversation, I'm glad she did have this conversation on that podcast for several reasons. One, Alex Cooper just got married herself. And so I think it was great for Ayesha Curry to be on that podcast, be talking to Alex Cooper, who is clearly, again, a very ambitious, driven young woman. Like, we see what she did with the Call Her Daddy platform in just 5 short years. And now she's building this media empire in her own right. Love that for her. That podcast reaches so many young women who are in the same place of life as Alex Cooper, or who are generally of the same age range, in their late 20s, early 30s, college students, in that middling place of, graduating college, but not yet in your late 20s. For that reason, I'm so glad that she went on that platform, because as we are shifting towards a more conservative society and women's reproductive rights are under attack, we're trying to, we're being fed this steady stream of sprinkle content, hypergamy content, trad wife content, all of this content that is low key, high key, radicalizing us, as well as normalizing a type of lifestyle that is not beneficial to young women, especially since we all know that marriage benefits men more than it does women. I think it's really important to be having these conversations with young women and telling them that being a wife and being a mom, it's very hard work, and it's not something you should be rushing into, especially at a young age. Get your degree, get your education, establish a career for yourself. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be a wife. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be a mom. But as a woman, especially in this economy, especially the climate that we are living in now, the culture, the society, and how our politics are leaning, it is so important now more than ever to, if you are going to become a mom, you have to do it in a way that is going to be smart for you and make the most sense for you and protect not only you as a woman, but your child. And you should be with a man who is going to have emotional intelligence. You should be with a man who's going to have whatever conversation. So whether it be 70-30 or 50-50, 40-60, however you split your finances, if he's going to be the primary breadwinner, he has to view you as an equal. He has to respect motherhood. He has to respect being what it is to be a stay-at-home mom and wife and really view you as an equal and not think that you should be grateful for the life he is providing you when you are providing him with a wife, when you are providing him with a child. I just think I love that Ayesha Curry said what she said, and I love and hope that it reached its target demographic, which was not the angry men who didn't even listen to the podcast before criticizing it, but for the women who are going to be at an age where they are thinking about motherhood and being a wife, or if they are already, what that could mean for them, and to really reflect on whether this is something you actually want or if society is telling you that this is something you should want. I think it's also important now more than ever to seek out information, to stop listening and to stop receiving everything someone says and taking it and running with it. Even what I post, I am somebody who is very intentional about the things that I say. I mean what I say and I say what I mean. And I will go out and I will research things. However, do not take the word of anybody at face value. Go and look it up yourself. Go read a book. Stop engaging with short form content. I saw a video the other day that was really talking about how cognitively short form content is destroying your brain. It is hijacking your emotions, and it is no coincidence to me that we saw an increase in rage bait and trolling behaviors when the TikTok platform took off. There are so many, again, reasons to that. However, short form content, it is absolutely hijacking your brain. It is destroying your emotional intelligence, and it is destroying your ability to critically think, to listen critically, to absorb and understand information, to listen to things past or longer than 30 seconds long. Like, please just be mindful of the content that you are taking in and the type of conversations you are engaging in. Ayesha Curry is absolutely owed an apology for how people have been so disrespectful to her because of their own inability to think for themselves, to listen to things in their entirety, and to just take a moment to listen to something before getting on the internet and just spewing whatever thought, feelings, and opinions they have. And this is because a lot of people, they are not listening to anything to understand. They are simply listening to respond and reinforce their own preconceived notions and the biases they already hold. And this is part of the reason why I have my duets and stitches turned off on TikTok, because people don't listen to what you say anyway. People will take what you say and run with it. And I just don't need that energy in my life. You're not going to take a little soundbite of something that I say and then use me to chase clout or get likes, clicks, views, shares, and followers, or provide people a space to abuse me because you didn't like what I said. Like, immediately no. And Ayesha Curry is absolutely owed an apology, but we are all owed an apology because now we are sharing the internet and these spaces with people who, yeah. Let me know if you watch Ayesha Curry's interview on Call Her Daddy. Do you think the backlash was disproportionate? Are you dating right now as a young woman? What is it like? Please drop down in the comments and tell me, because I honestly feel if I was not married, I would just be single and call it a day, because dating seems very challenging. And it is challenging because, in part, I feel, there's that anxiety when it comes to the economy and our changing society, but also people are really struggling with emotional intelligence. And it is because of all of the content that they are taking in, and they are not dating people with the intention of getting to know people and having conversations with people. They are not coming to the table with a level of vulnerability that I do believe is required to date in a way that you find somebody that's going to be your match. And that's all I'll say about that. But anyways, drop down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you made it this far. Drop the yellow heart down and let me know you made it this far, or leave a comment. Also, let me know if you have any questions about skincare, because I don't really talk about skincare on this platform. I talk about it a little bit more on TikTok, but I think I want to get back into skincare and doing reviews. Like, I think that's what's missing. And if we're going to bring back the long form content, we need to bring back reviews, like honest reviews about products. And I think that that's an era or direction I may be going in, but let me know. Let me know what you think. But anyways, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, peace out.